So, before we start, I want to ask for your prayers this morning. We interviewed a lovely young man this week, Callum and I, for the music director position, and he could pretty much play anything. So we ask for your prayers for us as we discern. We have another person coming this week for an interview, so that we can have music played by somebody that knows what they're doing. We pray for that very strong and very hard.
You have done a marvelous job.
Yes. Yeah. I have to tell you that I absolutely love preaching bare feet, because for me it's like being really rooted and really grounded on holy ground. And you know, sometimes I go and preach in other places and I rarely wear shoes because I don't know why. I did in England always wore shoes, but that was because it was so cold. But in America, wherever I go, I tend to preach bare feet. And I want to invite you in this moment to put your feet flat on the ground. You don't have to take your shoes off unless you want to. And remember that it doesn't matter where you are. Wherever your feet are, it's holy ground. And we forget that. You know, we go around in our busy lives and we forget that everything is sacred around us. So, as you are grounded, I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey. What have I got to be proud of? That's our theme today. And I want to say that when I'm talking about what have we got to be proud of, I don't mean me, it's the royal I, us. What have we got to be proud of on our individual life journeys? Now, I just need to explain that when you come from a British tradition, and hopefully Jeff will bring some of this back when he comes, back from England, you're taught not to be proud. You're taught to be humble, speak when you're spoken to, you do not talk about yourself, and you always ask about other people. Okay. So I come from a tradition that you're not actually asked to be proud. In fact, it's condemned. And if you look at the Bible, there are many passages where pride and proud is condemned. It's hundreds of times in there, usually with negative connotations. So Proverbs 11:2, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Proverbs again, God detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. Pride comes before a fall. So what the heck have I got to be proud of? How can I be proud if God is going to punish me for being proud? Why have a sermon about being proud on Pride Week? In fact, if pride is so bad, then surely I should speak out against it. Pride is such a bad thing. Don't go to pride because you shouldn't be proud. But there's a difference. We are often taught that pride is self-centered. It's egotistical. Look at me and what I have accomplished. And what's wrong with that is it makes us feel like and look like we are better than anybody else. In fact, Billy Graham, who I don't quote very often, it says one reason is because it makes us think we are better than other people, and this cuts us off from them and makes us insensitive to their needs. However, this is a different kind of pride that I'm talking about. This is about promoting self-affirmation, dignity, equality, and increased visibility, and especially in the LGBTQIA community. It is so important that we do come to things with pride, that we realize that no matter what is said to us, God created us and said it is good. So we need to be proud if we truly believe that we are created in God's image. I found a couple of quotes, and maybe some of you can relate to this. Instead of wishing you were someone else, which we do, be proud of who you are, because you never know who is looking at you and wishing they were you. And the other one I found was, allow yourself to be proud of yourself and all the progress that you have made, especially the progress that nobody else has seen. You see, that's a thing, that so much has happened in our lives and nobody else knows what's happened. Nobody else knows if we've grown. Nobody else knows if we've made wrongs right, except us. And when we know that, we should surely be proud of ourselves. So I want to use the word you, because you are important this morning. Why? Your whole being. O, openness, and you, uniqueness. So your whole being. I so often hear stories of people who hide parts of themselves. At this beginning of Pride Week, we know there are so many people that have and still hide a part of themselves because of fear of what's going to happen. It doesn't matter where we are on the sexuality or gender spectrum, there are some who would have us not be proud of ourselves. But your whole being is who God created. God didn't create the part of you that worked and leave behind the sexuality. God didn't create the part of you and you fill in the gap. God didn't leave any part of you behind. And this day we're here to worship. And it's important that we bring our whole selves. Not the bit that we only want some to see, including God. Because we come to the door and we think, oh, I don't want them to see I'm upset today. Or I don't want anybody to know about my sexuality. How many of you have been into a place and hidden part of who you are? Oh, come on. Any part of who you are. No, I'm not talking sexuality, gender, any part of who you are. The vulnerable side of you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's every person in this room. At some point or other. I know not you, Whip, but you When we come before God, we should be bringing the good, but the bad, the ugly, the outrageous into the presence of God. Because it's God that chooses us, blesses us, creates us, and wants to embrace our wholeness. Those places of deep hurt, those wounds that nobody else can heal. How many of you, and I've asked this once or twice before since I've been here, have looked in a mirror and said, I'm proud of you? Oh, none of you? That's a surprise. I would really like you to try that when you get home. Look in the mirror and say, I'm proud of you. And then when you don't believe it, because you won't, say it again. And again, and again, until you believe it. And if you can't believe it, think about what God would say. I am proud of you. Those of us that are parents are often used to showing pictures of our children or our furry pets or our feathered. And not all our feathered. And saying, look, I'm so proud of them. And yet we can't do it about ourselves. Why can we do it for other people, but we can't be proud of ourselves? We're criticizing ourselves all the time. Oh, there are things that we can learn on our journey. You know, if we do something wrong, we pick ourselves up, we try again. But we seem to criticize ourselves more than we are proud of ourselves. Have you ever noticed that when somebody is not proud of themselves, they're kind of hunched over? But when you are proud of yourself, you stand up straight. You sit up straight. Or society may not feed into that pride, but it doesn't mean you can't inside of you. Your whole being is something to be proud of. And I am talking to every single one of you. Your whole being is something to be proud of. When God created humanity, it wasn't, oh, it is good. Oh, except that bit. I am pleased with this, except that one. It was, it is good. Period. Or if you're English, full stop. O, openness. As I said, when we are proud, we have a different posture. We are oftentimes guarded in our presentation of ourselves to the world. However, our openness is something to be proud of. Sharing our journeys with others can help them on their journey. I know I've watched people come through the doors of this church and other churches that I've pastored who have felt broken. But they've heard the stories of others and slowly built up their lives again. We oftentimes come to church, we do our thing, we sing, we say hi, we drink, we eat, and we go home. But we don't build relationship with each other. We don't allow ourselves to get in that position where we are open and we share. A few weeks ago, we had 3 people share part of their journey about what it meant for them to have a servant's heart. And I was told after the service and by email what that meant to people. And I know a couple of the people that spoke are really humble of heart. And what they didn't realize is how much that touched others. And that's the same with all of us as we encounter life, that it's so important for us to be open. We'll be very different. Very different. Different thinking, different politics, different religious kind of understandings. It doesn't matter. But if we're open about who we are, then we can learn about other people as they are open with us. We have one life. And when we live it closeted, not just sexuality or gender closeted, but closeted, period, then we are put in a place of shame and not in a place of proud. So I encourage us to be proud and open about who we are, because we never know who that will touch. And the you in you is unique. Uniqueness. Your journey, every single one of you, your journey is unique. Nobody has the same journey as you. Nobody else can say that they've walked a mile in your shoes, because they haven't. They can't. We have couples here that have been together 50 years. They still don't have the same journey. They approach things very differently. And have different background that brought them to that place. We've had to battle our own demons, other people's demons that have oppressed us. And yet here we are. That's something to be proud of. Being unique, created not to look like the next person, not to act like the next person, but to be unique in the gifts and the nature that God has given you. When you think about the disciples, each of them came to work with Jesus from a very different perspective. There was the tax collector, boo. There was the doctor, yay. Except that, how do we know that doctor didn't have a worse life than the tax collector, who we always seem to put down as having the worst life? We never know what people have gone through, but what we do know is that they're unique. Every single one of them. Some of us play things over and over and over in our heads. It's a bit like that rewind in on videos, DVDs, that you keep going back to situations or places in your mind that you play over and over again, that you oppress yourself. Some of us like to float along through life and don't let that stuff affect us. As a community, it's important that we recognize the uniqueness of every single person that we encounter. You know, we've heard some stuff from Ellen DeGeneres. We've heard there's stuff that we're sharing in our mustard seed group about racism. That when we meet people, we meet them from the perspective that we come from, instead of meeting them where they are at, understanding that they are unique too. You can't expect people to see you in your light if you're not willing to accept others in their light. There are many that we have encountered on our journeys, like the second reading today, who would put you down rather than build you up. I encourage you to put yourself before God, who has already said you are good. God who doesn't say you need to be ashamed and in any closet of shame. But you need to be out and proud of every part of who you are. Don Miguel Ruiz wrote a book called The Four Agreements. And in that book, the ethos is that if you keep looking to other people for your commendations or your approval, you will never, ever get there. If you look to God, you got there the second you were born. How much different is that? Seriously, think about it. You're trying to prove yourself to other people and to yourself, and you never get there, and yet God said, that day, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 8 years. Yeah, years ago, when you were born, you were perfect. Perfect in my eyes. You, each one of you, are a beautiful creation and an amazing gift to this world. And if you are doubting in this very moment whether you are or not, just listen to God. So when you go from here, I hope that you will say, what have I got to be proud of? You. Me. What have I got to be proud of? Me. Are you sure?
Yeah.
What have I got to be proud of?
Me.